Okay, we'll put that to a vote. I declare that carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, we now go to item 6.1, which is the mayoral minute. There is one mayoral minute there, but as chair, I move to withdraw this minute as discussed previously. So I'd like to put that to a vote. All those in favour of withdrawing the minute? Thank you very much. I declare that carried unanimously. We now move to item 7.1, which are notices of motion. And we have one notice of motion that which is in relation to the Fairer Road funding, and Councillor Robinson has put forward this notice of motion. So it relates to road funding and the Commonwealth Financial Assistance Grant. So Councillor Robinson, would you like to move that? And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Robinson, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, fairly briefly. This motion was inspired by Professor Joseph Drew's excellent talk to the Ratepayers Association this month, and I'd really like to thank him for his insights. Everybody at that meeting seemed very concerned about the discrepancies in funding per kilometre of road between regional councils such as ours and Sydney councils such as the Northern Beaches, which is receiving over $3,000 per kilometre of road compared to ARC's $1,460. And that is not really the way things are supposed to work. And we know this because the national principles say that the identified road component of the financial assistance grants should be allocated to local government bodies as far as practical on the basis of relative needs of each local government body for roads expenditure and to preserve its roads asset. And the problems are all too evident when we are faced with natural disasters such as the extreme weather events that have caused havoc with all our roads. And added to that is the revision of the New South Wales Local Government Code of Accounting Practice, which changes the standard for satisfactory from condition 3 to condition 2. So at the end of June 2021, we thought we had $5.6 million worth of backlog to bring up the roads to a satisfactory standard. Now it appears we have a backlog of 48 million because the goalposts have changed. And when we combine that with the information from the census data on income and health, we can see just how much of a raw deal we now have. Our capacity to pay is much less than the median household in ARC is. Median household income in ARC is $1,400 per week, and that's a fair bit lower than the New South Wales median for 1829, and way less than the Northern Beaches of 2592. And on top of that, in our region, 46% of residents say they have some form of health condition, compared to 39% in New South Wales and 34% in the Northern Beaches. So we have greater needs combined with a reduced capacity to pay. And that suggests that we have to take every opportunity to point out the inequality. The country's Mayors Association has done an excellent job by setting out a case for better funding as an issue for the New South Wales election. So let's ask them to add to it by considering also the distribution of funds from the Federal Assistance Grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor O'Connor, you were the seconder. Do you wish to add anything?
I just want to say something briefly. I've actually lived quite near the Northern Beaches. I spent quite a while living in Mossman Council area, local government area, and what Professor Drew said has been a real concern of mine for many years since living up here, and especially since being on council, and that is that if you have a formula that skews the Grants Commission and the FAGs too far in relation to respecting population numbers, and you thereby basically get it wrong in terms of the need and the capacity to pay. And I'm saying here that I'm supporting this motion because we have a methodology here that is just not working. It is not working to support a regional road network, and it seems to be based on a presumption that roads are services that only redound to the benefit of the people that live within the particular LGA where those roads are situated. That is just stupid. A road network is for the whole country, and just as in this council, we levy charges and all sorts of things on all people because there's an availability of a service. The fact, when I lived in Mossman, I travelled up here. I travelled all around Australia and I used other people's roads. And so, I mean, won't go on about it now, but the methodology is crap, needs to be fixed. I commend country mayors for taking this on. I ask Adam Marshall, our local member, to take country mayor's position and our own seriously. I commend my fellow councillors here to support this motion because we've got to put a line in the sand. We've got to stake our claim that this is just stuffed as a methodology. We need to ask both levels of government to fix it if they don't want to continue the rip-off of regional people.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillors, anything further to add? All right, let's put this to a vote. We have a couple of points there, or 4 points there for Council to note, and also a request that Council brings this information to the attention of country mayors. So all those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Okay, thank you, councillors. That brings us now to item 8.1, the Renewable Energy Action Plan for adoption. So council is being asked to note the feedback from the period of public exhibition of the Renewable Energy Action Plan and adopt said Renewable Energy Action Plan. Now, details of this from page 15 of the agenda and page 20 of the attachments. Can I call for a mover of this? Thank you, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael, would you like to say anything?
Just that this report enables council to look at what it does in terms of renewable energy, and enables us to look at how we behave in terms of what we do, our buildings of various actions, and I commend it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Witters.
Just a quick note for the author of this. My comments from the last meeting were preempting this report, so you'll know what I'm on about.
Thank you.
I'd like to move a slight amendment, if I may, and that should appear on the screen, which is a C and a D. And the C is that the Renewable Energy Action Plan is published on the Environment section of ARC's website, and that the community submissions and council's response is also published in the same place. Now, it may be that the mover and the second are quite happy to agree to that.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael.
Pardon? Oh, I can if you want, or you can, yeah. Well, the reason why that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, briefly.
Okay, well, very briefly, that there are really lots of good ideas in this plan, and it really does deserve to be adopted, noting, of course, that the actions will be contingent on further assessment of the costs and benefits and the payback period for the above recommended initiatives. And I really enjoyed seeing the excellent information in the community submissions, and they really are worth including with the plan, especially the comments about what ARC or Project 030 will do in response. And it would really be great to see that more information on that. And although council staff didn't have time to make any changes to the plan to incorporate these ideas by publishing them alongside the plan, they won't get lost, especially those supported by council staff and are more likely to be implemented, which will make this consultation much more than a tick box exercise. So really thanks to Constructive Energy and all the submitters for their efforts. And let's turn this plan into reality.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Before I come to you, Councillor Witters, Councillor McMichael, you were the mover of the original motion. You were happy with that. Councillor Witters, before we see if you're happy for your seconding to remain, I suggest that we vote on the 4 items individually. Does that change your, acceptance or not?
My acceptance is more based around, I agree with the sentiment of making sure that these are, the information that Councillor Robinson's looking to have out in the public is there. Just wondering whether it already is there in the minutes and attachments for this meeting that you can find on the council's website as it is. So whether we're sort of doing the same thing twice or whether we need to put them out in that set as stated in the amendment. So can I get clarification on whether what Councillor Robinson's looking to display is already accessible on the council's website first?
I'll just... Yes, that is correct. So because the business papers are on the council website, that information is accessible. So my question then to you... Yeah, so my question...
So, yeah, well, I don't think we need it if it's already there. So I'll just say, as a seconder, I would say, no, I don't agree to it. But...
Okay, so we still need another seconder then if... or Councillor Robinson, you have moved that. Do we have a seconder, which is Councillor O'Connor? Thank you. So before we go for a quick discussion on this, I want to vote on each of those 4 points individually. So, Councillor Robinson, your motion, anything to add that we haven't heard already?
Yeah, no, the only thing I want to add is, yes, this information is available in the November 2022 business paper, but it's very, very hard to find. And this is one of the problems. If you can't find stuff on the website, and I have lots and lots of people in the community telling me they can't find stuff, and really important stuff. So having it somewhere sensible, like the environment section of the, because it really belongs in the environment section of Council's website, would make it much more logical and much more easy to find, and therefore much more likely to be acted on. So having something in the business paper, and then you want to find, 2 years down the track, was it May, was it June, was it July, or whenever it was, it's really hard to find. So having something simple would be a great boon to the community and increase transparency and accountability.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. So this is now the substantive motion. Councillor O'Connor, anything to add? No. Any other councillors? Councillor O'Brien?
I guess I just wanted to put the question to anyone in the staff who might be able to respond, whether this is a difficult thing or is it to do or is it...
Okay, well, I guess through me or through the General Manager.
No, not difficult to do, Mr Mayor. It's just about attaching it all there, so no, that's fine.
Thank you. All right. Well, councillors, let's go to the vote, and as I said, we'll do each of those items individually. So the first one is to note the feedback contained in the report for public exhibition. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. The second one is to adopt the Renewable Energy Action Plan with a couple of points to note. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. And then we move to Part C, that the Renewable Energy Action Plan is published on the environment section of the ASC's website. All those in favour? I declare that carried. And then D, that the community submissions and council's response are also published in the same place. All those in favour? 6, I declare that carried. So...
Can I just have a little word on this, please, Mayor? Or was it over?
I think it's over, Councillor Gallatley.
Thank you.
Just need to check that we've got the voting. No, it was carried 6-5. So those against were Packham, Gallatley, Gadders, Copeland. Maybe it was carried 7-4. Okay, thank you. Okay, councillors, now this next item, 8.2, the permanent special rate variation, this is likely the most significant item that this term of council will vote on. And it's the item that has by far received the greatest level of community interaction for the very reason that it's going to determine what sort of region we become. Are we going to be one that continues to limp along, or are we going to be one which is thriving? Now, the details around this are from page 23 of the agenda and 130 of the attachments. Now, I propose that the recommendation that's on the screen be amended so that we consider and vote on items A, B and I first, and then consider the vote on substantive items being C to H afterwards. So in items that have been highlighted, A, B and I, council is being asked to note the community engagement summary report, the capacity to pay report, and acknowledge the feedback received from the community during the community engagement and public exhibition process. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Redwood, do you wish to speak on any of that?
Not on that, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gadders? Any other councillors wish to speak on the highlighted bit?
I'd just like to thank everyone for participating in the reports and the meetings and all the events that council took, and I hope that everyone's felt that they've been able to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Oh, sorry, Councillor McMichael. Anyone else? All right, councillors, let's put that to a vote. The council notes those various reports. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Okay, we now consider the substantive components of this item, and it shouldn't be lost on anyone, council or the community, that making a decision on the special rate variation puts a significant burden on councillors. The reality is that we are a representative democracy, and the community elected the 11 of us to make decisions in the best interests of our community. The expectation is that in making these decisions, and these very weighty decisions, the councillors have immersed themselves in all the information and are making a decision based on fact, as opposed to emotion. We are all civic leaders, and the outcome of this vote will reflect the sort of leaders that we are. So we have the items on the screen. If I could call for a mover. Thank you, Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Now,
with respect, Mr Mayor.
in the interests of both councillors and the community, I suggest that we move into a committee of the whole, and so the councillors are unshackled in discussing this significant topic. So I suggest that we suspend standing orders and move into that committee of the whole. So we can have a mover. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Seconder, thanks, Councillor Gadders. Can I put that to a vote? So, okay, I'm all in favour. We're now in a committee of the whole to discuss this. I'll open with you, Councillor Redwood, as you were the mover. Councillor O'Connor, could you? Thank you. No, sorry, I was just getting you to turn that on.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think if we have a look at the environment that we operate in local government and take into consideration the level of cost shifting that's occurred over a number of different years and the burden that it puts on council, plus then look at the significant backlog of asset management that we've found ourselves in our region. And then the apparent lack of vibrancy in our region that people have talked about. This is a pivotal moment for us, for our community, and whilst possibly unpopular with some people with the decision that we may make here, I hope that in the very near future that decision will be celebrated by all, because they'll actually see the benefits of what it will bring. So from my perspective, I'll be voting for the recommendations that we see on there.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Gadders, do you want to speak as you were a seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will. Just a few brief words. I echo your sentiments both. Today, as a group of elected councillors, we've got a strategic decision to make in terms of the financial health of this region. I've read the community feedback myself from pillar to post, and I find there's actually been some very insightful comments in that feedback, which I've taken on board. So thank you very much, as Susan said, to the community for that feedback. But however, no matter what your viewpoint is, I understand residents not wanting to pay any more than what they currently are, whether it's council rates or whether it may be, your restaurant bill at your local favourite restaurant. None of us like to actually pay more, and especially when we're living all and operating in inflationary times. However, we're faced with the need to maintain our assets and services at a level of availability and quality for the community. It's not been done properly in the past, and now is the time to rectify this. The facts are that the Armidale Regional Council does not currently, nor in the near future, have the financial depth to maintain assets and services without an SRV. The quantum of the SRV has been arrived at after much deliberation of the facts. The 50% option is the only level that will provide sufficient funding to meet the maintenance and renewal targets without negatively affecting services to the public. So I think we must proceed with SSRV. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor O'Connor.
Mr. Mayor, thanks. I was just, it's a bit awkward now, seeing as you wouldn't accept my suggestion had I been able to put it before we went into Committee of Whole, but the suggestion was that we vote in seriatim on these items when we go back to vote, and that in fact we're able to direct our discussion in Committee of Whole to individual points.
I'd only like to be in Committee of the Whole once.
Yeah.
So if there's any points you'd like, if there's anything you'd like to make on any of the points, now is probably the time to do it.
I accept that, but I'm just, I guess, foreshadowing a procedural motion when we go back into or out of Committee of Whole that these items be dealt with in seriatim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make the community aware of a couple of things. One is that this is the first step in the whole process. It's a very confident first step that I believe shows that we do have a belief that our region has a future and we're willing to invest in that. I realise that at the moment it's a really hard time for many people due to a number of larger economic and political issues that are going on at the moment, but those issues also affect council as well. We are also having to pay higher power rates, and a lot of the other economic factors are affecting our capacity to pay as well. I myself am a fairly lower income worker. Being a bleeding heart isn't a very profitable business usually, so but I believe that I want to contribute to our community. I believe that public wealth actually enhances private wealth, that anything we contribute actually not only affects people in a low income sector, but everybody, because we have proper roads that we can and proper connections and proper services. It makes all our other contributions easier. The other thing I was going to say is that when councillors do get together, they're very supportive and very compassionate about the idea that there are people who will be affected much more negatively than others, and we have committed in our various discussions with each other and as in private meetings with each other whether we will revisit the hardship policy. We have a lot of power and capacity there to really look at that, to help those people who are really struggling, and also to refer them to services that we have good connections with in the community to assist them in other areas, you know, like power and food and other areas that they may be struggling with. I wouldn't support this if I didn't feel like the councillors are very supportive of making sure that there is some kind of capacity to provide some sort of safety net for those who can't afford it. But overall, I believe that us contributing to our community is showing a belief in our community, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Witters.
As the Mayor stated, it's a fairly big decision. One of the signs that shows it's a big decision is the effort the council put in to involving the community in making this decision. Numerous community meetings, numerous surveys and engagements, and a lot of that stuff was taken to really make sure that when council put a report together that the community's views were heard. Some of this infrastructure backlog isn't new. The previous term I was well aware of it, and that's why I campaigned that it should be high priorities for this one. It's not going to be a popular decision, and it could cost most of us a seat at the table at the next council, but this is a decision that outlives this council, this group of councillors, and continues on. So whether we get spoken as highly as the council that made the decision to build Malpas Dam a long time ago, that we made a decision at the time that benefits the community. It has to be done. Like, there's so many. I suppose one of the comments that I get is, I'm happy to pay extra if we get better services. All right, so it's now the community's going to have to put their hand in their pocket. It's now up to council to deliver. If you're asking for more money to give better services, then give better. We need to be honest to our word and give better services. So that it's a 50-50 agreement. We're promising that if you give some extra money for rates, we'll deliver better services. So that's where we need to be. We need to be accountable as an organisation to our word and to our promises for that. When you break it down, a lot of people are concerned that 50% on anything is a lot of money, but when you break it down to the actual part of what the 50% is, and then you look at, well, when would I spend that sort of money, and how much does it cost me over a full time a year, and break it down in a day, it's manageable. And as Councillor O'Brien said, there is going to be looking at the hardship policies and all that sort of stuff for people who may struggle with this sort of thing. Council's not just going to leave you by the wayside. There'll be provisions in and around looking after those sort of people within the community. The big test is in 12 months whether we come back with and say the community feedback on our service delivery has been good. The footpaths are good. The roads are good. We're getting fresh water all the time. Our toilets are flushing all the time. Our parks are being cut. All these sorts of services the council is required to deliver. If the community sees that they're getting improved because of the money that they've put in, then I think it's a win-win for everyone. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael.
So this is a big decision for us all, and as a number of my councillors have said, we've been discussing it for quite a while. It's about services. It's about what we want for our region. What can we offer, and what do we need? It's about politics we're the lowest tier of government. And there are two tiers above us. There's the state government and the federal government. And I keep saying the state government gives us stuff and they don't give us any money. They give us things and they say, here, you do this and you have this. I like those fire trucks, but they cost money. They're on our balance sheet and they're there and they cost more money. And we have to do more, we've had to do more for less for years. And we've been putting things off, we've had to put things off, and we're not the only council. Of 11 councils who are asked, what are you doing with your money? They've all said, we can't do it, we're not able to. We're not the only ones in position because this way of organising services and money hasn't been sustainable, okay? We're a regional council, and as my colleague, Councillor Robinson, said earlier, the way that money for roads has been organised for years has not been fair or equitable, okay? Sydney gets $1 million road, okay? It's a kilometre, it's not accurate, but nonetheless, okay? And we've got potholes, okay? Drive along Donnelly Street, you better go really slowly, okay? It's rain, we've had floods, okay? We are asking the community for more money so that we can provide services that the community has said we really need. We want to be bigger, we want to be a community that provides great services for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, well, this is a really, really difficult decision, as everybody admits. And it's especially difficult for me because I said at the June meeting that I would make a decision when I'd seen the results of the community consultation and also seen the results of the simpler financial information. And we've now seen the results of the community consultation, and what it says is 66% of those who responded chose managed decline. 56% said the proposed increase would be very unmanageable. And 62% supported reduced tourism and marketing, 66% supported decommissioning community buildings, and 70% supported worsening road conditions. So that's what they said, and it's a bit then difficult to say, well, we've consulted with the community, but we're going to ignore everything they say. And certainly the other part of my decision was about the simpler financial information, which is obviously still a work in progress. And obviously council staff have had so many other things on their mind that it was something that has to be postponed while staff worked on other deadlines. But certainly one thing, as we saw earlier in this meeting, is clear, is that the roads are our biggest problem because we've had one of the wettest years on record. And if we could get federal road funding, or if even more of our roads would qualify for natural disaster funding, because the impact that I see on our roads really is a natural disaster, we probably wouldn't need the entire SRV. So if anybody has got any ideas about how to manage that, to commit to taking only what we need, and if we do get extra grant funding, as I hoped in June this year, and if we make the decision based on what we need every year when we set the rights, I'd be very, very happy. But otherwise, it just seems a bit difficult to commit to now without seeing all the extra information to proceeding with the application, because we've still got extra documents to go out for public consultation in December, and I haven't seen those, and probably none of our other fellow councillors have seen them. We just know roughly what they are, that is telling the public what extra things they would get with the SRV. So again, I probably have to defer my decision until we have seen those documents. And just noting also that of households earn less than $650 a week, and that's households, not people, and they are going to be suffering if we actually commit to it before we need to. We may have to express an interest, but we also have to be ready to change our minds if something else comes up and by some miracle we do get extra funding. Because people here who can't see a doctor, people who here are putting off medical treatment because of the cost, they probably don't have time to worry about whether council's assets are in condition 2 or condition 3, which until last year was considered satisfactory. We have to really balance people's needs to maintain their homes and see what condition they're in, heat their homes, and find out how many of those are in a less than satisfactory condition before we can commit to something better for council. So yes, it's a difficult decision, and I do believe that we have to put in an application, but we also have to be flexible. And if circumstances change, then we can change our minds and say we don't need it, rather than putting people into a difficult situation. Because we're always talking about growth, and yet it's not a lack of jobs that's causing the lack of growth, because there's nearly 400 job vacancies in Armidale, and if we could get people, and what we have to do is make this place an attractive place where people want to come to live, rather than just trying to drive pay for more and more things that we may or may not need. So let's have a look at the details. The devil is always in the detail. Thank you.
Councillor Golightly.
Sort of occurred to me just even now that certain councillors that are talking about this have been probably those same councillors that have got us into this decision, into this situation we're in, where we're flat out keeping our heads above water. If you can't learn from previous mistakes, I think there's something a little bit wrong there. I don't think it's very wise to be taking too much code to what they're saying. So I think what we've got to do with this one, we've got to work with staff on this, not against them. Don't waste their time with rubbish that people are bringing up. As Councillor O'Connor said, it's crap that some of these councillors are bringing and just wasting time. This special rate variation has taken...
Point of order, sorry, yes, Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah.
In relation to a formula for allocation of funding.
Sorry.
In both councils, in fact all council laws, if we could just refrain from any
language. I just thought was quite okay when Councillor O'Connor used those words. Sorry, but it's actually rubbish. It's actually rubbish. But anyway, don't waste the time.
Councillor Golightly, sorry, we have another point of order.
The use of a colloquial word in relation to a methodology is not the same as using that in relation to an individual.
Okay. In any event, let's refrain from any language that might be considered somewhat blue.
Thank you. I apologise. But anyway, work with the staff. They're the ones that are doing this. We've come off our performance order to actually learn our mistakes and do stuff. This is what we've got to do so we can get our heads above water and start doing something. Please, we can't miss this chance to better this region by going on with some of the rubbish that I'm hearing. I just think it's grandstanding, and I think some of these people here, or some of these councillors, I think they really do like the sound of their own voice. But I'll leave it very minimal at 45 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Golightly.
Since we're in the committee of the whole, I'll have another chat here.
Yes.
Reading through this again, and this is where we've got to be careful. And I note Councillor Robinson's comment on the 66% of people who responded and against it. 66% of comes out as 248 people. in total, the respondents seems to be about 350, which is about 1% of the actual population of the region. And 66% of 1% is not a lot of people, and regardless of that, what we need, and it's unfortunate that a lot more people didn't respond, because then we can make a bigger push. If you've got 66% of 30,000 people, then you know that's a lot of people that are saying, no, we don't want this, but it's 66% of less than 1% that have made the choice. So we've then got to look at taking away all the emotions and everything else and the financial decisions of it, and making personal jobs at everyone else within the room isn't going to help us. We've got to look future focused forward on what is best for the community as a whole, from everyone that sits in Armidale, Ebor, Guyra, Lower Creek, Ben Lomond, and anywhere else in between, even Exmouth. If for those that remember Exmouth out there, it was a stop on the train station. So what needs to be done is, this seems to be in this discussion a lot of emotion. A lot of people are making a personalised emotive points and discussions, when you've got to look back at everything that council has tried to put in. We know and understand as councillors, when we ran for this council, what exactly was expected. Now, if you go back and listen to the tapes of some of the Meet the Candidates forums, I'm sure everyone sitting in the room probably mentioned something about either the infrastructure backlog or funding for this sort of thing and funding for that sort of thing. So we all knew this was coming. It's not something the council has sprung upon us. So if you've run to be on this council, you knew you were going to have to make a decision on this issue. So let's show a bit of leadership. Let's stop making emotive comments and taking personal jibes, and actually have a look at what the whole guts of the whole thing is. It's making a tough decision for future generations. It's like planting the tree that you won't even get to see. So let's do that, eh?
Thank you, Councillor Witters. I think it's timely that we resume standing orders and move out of committee of the whole.
To speak.
Oh, sorry, Councillor
And
O'Connor.
I think there are other councillors here who haven't as well.
Sorry, Councillor O'Connor, I didn't see your light on. So
Well, it was on, and then you passed it to another councillor. So, yeah.
the lights don't lie. But if you would like to have another,
I would, and it wouldn't be another. It would be my first substantive comment. Look, I just want to say quite clearly that I do support an SRV. I think we need somewhere around about 35 to 40%. I'm still not convinced that we need 50% permanently or 58% over the next 3 years, and then a permanent from there. And the reasons that I have that view are really contained in what I see as an inadequate response from the Morrison and Lowe study, which talks about, can our community afford it? The Morrison and Lowe study, if you read it carefully, basically identifies only 3 areas where there's sort of capability to pay, just based on the normal reasons, which is wealth or household income, and those areas are Sudan Heights, St Patrick's, Buena Vista. Then they're at, and we all know that's South Hill, or otherwise known as Doctors Hill. So, but what the Morrison and Lowe study repeatedly says is that there's widespread disadvantage, and the word widespread is used. And the hat or the hook that they want to hang a sort of notional affordability is household savings. And they've said that savings across our region in the past 5 years, I've no doubt this is accurate, and I appreciate all the detail in the Morrison and Lowe report, but that points out that savings of 21% have been made, but in these areas, and this is what I think is a problem: transport, hotels, and cafes. Now, those are exactly the vibrancy areas. Basically, our community and other communities like us, including Northern Rivers, has been pulling in their belt to try and make ends meet already for the past 5 years, and that lack of vibrancy that has been used to support, in my view, somewhat emotionally, the notion that we need to have a 50 or 58% SRV. It's a circular argument where our people are already pulling their belts in tightly, mostly across the region, as this study discloses. And I don't think that because they've actually been doing that and saved 21% by devibrancing the area, that means that they're now able to pay a big 50% increase. I think they can, and they want to pay something, and I would definitely support that. But I don't. At the moment, we don't have a choice. We've just given one option, a single option, which is 50% one-off, or in this case, we've chosen 58% over 3 years, ongoing as a permanent thing. That's the only option we've been given to vote on today, and I'm not persuaded at this stage that that is really fair. My other reason is that Morrison and Lowe have quoted that house prices have gone up in our LGA by 23% over the past 5 years, and they make what I consider to be a completely irrational claim that this relates to a significant increase in household wealth. You cannot eat your house. You cannot cut off bits of your house and sell it to pay the rates. I mean, it's just not a reason, and the fact that it's included in this report suggests to me that they were somewhat desperate to find affordability where it doesn't exist. The other thing that they say, which I think is sort of unbelievable really, is that rentals, and there are a lot of our community are in rental stress already, and they say that rentals will not be impacted by the SRV. I mean, as night follows day, landlords will put up rents to cover their costs, and there will be an even higher household stress across the region, whether you're a mortgagee, whether you're a homeowner, or whether you are a renter. And so I really have not got confidence in the Morrison and Lowe report, which I think is pivotal to whether we should go this far. I think a more cautious approach is warranted, and I foreshadow that there will be an amendment when we go into go out of the Committee of the Whole. Now, we are not offering more services. What we've offered is to maintain services, and I've had a number of people come up to me and say, when do you pay more for the same? Other people have said they'll be leaving. I've contemplated just walking away, and I'm very, very committed to this region, but seriously, if it becomes unaffordable, you cannot stay. There's been no reference to the impacts of harmonisation. There are no rankings of how this local government area will stand vis-a-vis other ones, and that has a direct impact on our ambition for growth. If we become the most expensive place to live in regional New South Wales under any category, but in particular residential or commercial, then we can kiss goodbye our ambitions to attract more residents. First thing that they will ask, and on the front page of any contract of sale for a residential premises, is the outgoings, the rates. So I don't think we fare very well at the moment, but we're certainly going to fare a lot less in that comparison going forward. As I said, this is a matter about calculations, mathematics, looking at affordability. I don't think we've finished the work on this. I'm really disappointed to hear that I'm going to be called back for a meeting in January, which I was hoping to take as some leave, because, as I understand it, IPART has requested that we redo, for the purposes of this SRV application, our delivery program. Haven't got to the bottom of that. I feel insecure in voting for this without knowing a little bit more about that. And look, I could say more, but I think we haven't really finished consultation. It's going to be very difficult to consult with this community in January because they're all at the beach. And anyway, I'm just, unfortunately, this Morrison and Lowe study does not persuade me that there will not be, if we do this. One of the issues I have is in the long-term financial plan that some of the assumptions are not sound, in my opinion, and pretty concerned about the build-up or the transfer of wealth in terms of very large surpluses to council after year 3 and ongoing. So I don't think I'm being emotional. I think I'm being statistical here. And I would like to see rankings, and I would like to see better arguments in the Morrison and Lowe report than we have at the moment. And I don't think using averages to calculate impacts is actually sound. A median would be better. But anyway, that's about it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of very brief points. And one is, I take on board Councillor Wibber's idea that we always get a very small response rate. And I will say that we are doing another consultation, and maybe Councillor O'Brien, who's going to a community engagement conference tomorrow, might have some better ideas for the next consultation, which is going to take place in December. And if I support this motion now, I may change my mind depending on, one, what changes we are planning to make to the hardship policy, because that's very, very critical, and also to see the response of the community response to that, and second, consultation on the SRV, and finally to see the response of the politicians when they know that if they do not help us, then we will be forced to put up the rates by 58%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Redwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in support of what Councillor Witt has said about percentages, and I think Councillor Robinson's already admitted now that perhaps percentages can be a bit deceptive, because there were 375 responses to the consultation. Not all of those were negative, but a great proportion of them are negative, because generally you find that when you're asking people this sort of question, you're probably going to get more people who are protesting against it than supporting it. So if we have a look at it in relation to the rateable assessments, which is around the 13,000 rateable assessments, it's 2.9% of them responded, or as Councillor Witt has said, of the population, it's about 1% of the population. The other thing was, in relation to what Councillor O'Connor was saying, we were tabled a report yesterday which indicated that of 12 LGAs that we are a similar size to, 8 of those 12 LGAs will be applying for, or have applied for, or in the process of applying for, a special rate variation. And the disclosure there was that the Armidale Regional Council SRV is actually one of the lowest out of all of the similar sized councils, which goes back to my earlier point that the system is quite broken, where so many local councils or local government councils find themselves in the place where they have to apply for an SRV, and the fact that we're one of the lowest would be indicative that I think that, from my perspective, we're on the right track. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor O'Connor.
I just wanted to say that every local government area, or every local government has its own criteria, its own parameters, and I think comparing us and saying, oh, we're not, ours is modest at 50%, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I forgot to mention is ominous, I suppose, that Sydney Morning Herald front page today talks about a wild ride ahead on rates, says the RBA, and they're basically saying that we're in for a roller coaster ride on interest rates. And another concern I have is that there is talk that the rate peg methodology is under review, so we don't know how that's going to turn out. But there is some very strong suggestion, and it makes sense, that we might come out of this 58% increase facing a rate peg that reflects inflation levels of 8, 9, 10, 12%. So that's another uncertainty, which is why I would prefer to have the option of voting on something that's a little more cautious and gives us time to sort of test the wind. As the Philip Lowe, the Reserve Bank Governor, said, he's not just issuing warnings to everybody about climate change, ageing population, the breakdown of global supply chains and the overhaul of the energy grid. and that all of these cumulatively will put an upward pressure on prices for everybody. That impacts council, but it also impacts the ability of our ratepayers to pay. And I think that, we're not in a position as elected people where we have to balance the interests of the people we represent with the interests of their council. We don't want the council to fall over, but we don't want our households to fall over and become basically unsustainable, because that is the quickest way to our demise, because we won't have any people left. So I'm not saying that's the outlook, but I'm saying we must balance them. And yes, it's true, we've got to be responsible, we've got to look after the organisation, we've got to look after the assets. We know the wider system is broken, but right now we've got to make a decision about the survival of ourselves and our residents. So that's why I think we need a more nuanced approach.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. It probably is time we get on with it. But
yeah, utilising the community as a whole. What I'm hearing is a lot of the concerns raised are about looking after the community. What we have, excuse me, within what the 11 others that sit around here is we're all involved in our key performing working groups. Each one of those key performing working groups, whether it's enriched region or that we sit on or any of the other ones, have the ability to communicate with different sections of the community. Just in regards to the enriched region, we're working with certain smaller aspects of the region to try and deal with a very specific issue at the moment. So we're focusing really hard on that. What it comes down to is if, as leaders, we need to communicate with each other, and if we're hearing a group within our community is saying that this SRV is putting hardship on us, we've got the capacity as leaders of this community to help this community help itself. Too many times around this table it gets said that we're like the only people, and councillors are the only people that can do something. The community can do something as well. They can start to look after each other, lift each other up. The old rising tide lifts all ships. And our tides are our key performing working groups. We have to show the leadership that we were elected to do by chairing those committees, putting them committees into an actual focus and getting them to do something, not to sit around and talk. And then come back to here and say, this is what we're doing to help this issue, whether it's with housing or funding or homelessness or health or anything else that can be affected by a rate increase for certain people, which is a lot of the concern which I'm hearing from around the table. Well, this is where we utilise the bigger, broader, overarching thing is what the community is all about. It's not just us or the people that sit up on the desk. It's we have to utilise those people. So all those issues that are getting addressed, we can help the community address that. We can facilitate that. We can work towards that. It's not just the council's responsibility. So we need to understand that. Like, we don't have the funding. If we had the funding, you could say, yeah, we'll look after everyone. But we don't do that. We've got we're a small community and small communities look after each other. So let's start utilising the knowledge that we have out there to get different things done. The services that we have, like there's 1,000 services in this town that can help each and every single individual, no matter what your issue is. We need to tap into that and use our abilities as key performing working groups in each one of those groups to bring those people that need to be in the room, find out who needs to be in the room, get them in the room, get them doing some stuff, and then report it back to council so that we can make decisions that then lessen the impact of what a proposed rate increase would do for the concerns of some of the things I'm hearing around the table. Like, it's about time we showed leadership in proper leadership, not just leadership in words.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Look, it really is timely that we resume standing orders, move out of the committee of the whole and put these items to a vote. So can I seek a mover? Thank you, Councillor Redwood, and Councillor O'Brien, you're the seconder. Put this to a vote. All those to resume standing orders. I declare that carried unanimously. So we're back to the original motion that was moved there by Councillor Redwood and seconded by Councillor Gadders. So I'll go back. I realise we have spoken a lot but we'll just do this the way we've traditionally done. I'll come to you, Councillor Packham. Maybe Councillor Redwood, is there anything that you'd like to add now we're back?
No, thank you. I think I've said my piece.
Councillor Gaddis?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Packham?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion where points Charlie and hotel are amended to replace the words permanent with temporary. I realise I don't understand or know which section is appropriate for temporary, but in items Charlie and hotel, change from permanent to temporary.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Do you wish to speak to that before we go to the vote?
Absolutely.
Thought you might.
I'd like to have a crack at this. Mr Mayor, it's without doubt that the council is in the throes of financial stress and it critically needs an injection of regular and sustained cash flows to continue operations. All my councillors have said that, we're all in agreement. But Mr Mayor, the funding model is flawed, as my councillors also spoke about. This is recognised at all levels of government and by our local MP, and in my view, insufficient advocacy work has been done to restore local councils to healthy and sustainable means through proper funding, including passing onto local governments the entire 2% of GST revenue that the federal government provides to the state for that purpose. I don't believe it's appropriate that in perpetuity, ratepayers are the scapegoats for this. Echoing the sentiments of Councillor Witters, McMichael, Robinson, and actually everybody, with the exception of the statistics, which may actually prove to be a representative sample, and acknowledging Councillor Redwood's comments about, you know, who responds and who doesn't. Many people at the public forums threw their hands up and walked away grumbling, and I don't think they were given the opportunity quickly. Could you write that down before you leave? So whilst I appreciate the community gathering of information, I'm not quite always sure that everyone who wants to say something writes it down or we actually can capture that feedback. I'm also not satisfied that we've demonstrated or indeed contracted with our community what we will do, what they will get by forcing them to cough up, but we ought to. I'm not certain on the social KPIs or the community KPIs have been set with this proposal. We haven't said, for instance, if you invest with us, amenity will improve and more ratepayers will come to the region. We've maintained services, but we haven't said anything much will improve. We've not said, come with us on this journey and we'll release 1,000 blocks of land to add more ratepayers to the region to share the burden. Invest with us now and pressures on your household budget will be reduced over time. To say that cost savings, as in the documents, will be generated by reduced insurance premiums due to the council merger, which happened quite a number of years ago, or electrifying the gates at the Ebor tip, or saving in councillor fees and expenses is going to be sufficient to sway the sentiment. So what I'm proposing is a proof of concept and trust, trusting council and council laws to deliver. As Councillor Witter said, if you're going to say it and get the money, you've got to deliver on it. Ask ratepayers to come with us for now, giving us time to advocate for better funding regimes, including the upcoming IPART and PEG review that we should be advocating and being fully involved in, and giving them some sense of hope that relief will come in the future. And let us work hard to make that happen with a temporary special rate variation, which I believe is in the best interest of the community. Who knows what our fortunes will look like in 3 years' time? And I believe that by providing a temporary variation, this will actually provide this council with a level of agility to make decisions as we come to the cusp of the close out of those 3 years. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor O'Connor, you were the seconder.
Yes, I agree with what Councillor Packham has said, and I'd just reiterate that I don't think it's proven yet that this is affordable. But if we asked for a short, sharp, 58% over 3 years or whatever, and then had time to reassess, that would be much fairer and would generate the revenue we need immediately to deal with our current problems, but not alleviate the pressure on us to actually put pressure back up on the state government in terms of emergency funding for pavement damage, which is, I think, well acknowledged, not just the responsibility of individual LGA residents. We're in a climate change crisis. I think that's recognised, and there should be money coming from higher levels of government, this would achieve all of that and just be a slightly more cautious approach, but still deliver the funds we need right now.
Thank you. Councillor Gillespie.
Can I just please ask all your fair-minded, reasonable councillors to vote this amendment down and just get on with the job that we put here to do. This being brought up late in the meeting, this could have been talked about in our general managers' meetings that we had before this. This is something we don't know what sort of barriers this puts up for anyone and everyone in the staff. I just say, please, let's move on and get this over and done with, and get this great place that we're living in back on its feet, mate. This is just ridiculous trying to do this sort of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, well, I would like to ask through you, Mr. Mayor, that how many years Councillor Packham would like the SRV to last for. But while I've got the microphone, let's just very briefly say that the funding model is broken, and that's aptly demonstrated by the fact that so many rural and regional councils are now having to apply for very large SRV. And I will support Councillor Packham's motion because it does give us time to work out the details, to look at the hardship policy and make sure it works, and see how many people are really getting trouble if we raise the rates. So this will give us a testing period, and if it's, for example, 3 years, then at least we've got something for 3 years, and then it's not a long time to do something about reviewing it. It's applying for an SRV every 3 years, if we need another one, is not a great hardship compared with the possible hardship to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. So, Councillor Packham, through me, to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Robinson, for the question. Yes, indeed, it'd be 3 years. It would be the same. It's to generate the same amount of funding as was envisaged in all the programs and all the budget discussions that we've had. But for Councillor Gillespie, we did only receive the final parts of all the community consultation, etc., as of Thursday night. So, I take a considered amount of time to get to my position. I understand that you may have decided very early on the piece your post, but for me, I take it right to the wire, and I'm here today to express that I believe that this will actually be a compromise for everybody, knowing that we can still do some good and hard work over the next 3 years to get to the same position, and we'll also be in a more informed position as to what maybe Councillor Robinson was alluding to, is do we need that much and this much? Maybe we can convert it to, in the end, it'll only be an ongoing 20% or a 25% SRV. I mean, it was well known that right at the front, I wasn't in favour of a 3-year SRV. I wanted it to be done up front and get the pain over and done with, get the money the council needs to jumpstart this community again. I don't want to wait 3 years to get that in, to be able to say, well, look at us, we're strong enough now, we've got a war chest that we can actually engage with. I wanted it up front. But the best thing here and now, because the option was managed decline, which I actually believe is more of a rationalisation of services which can still be successful as opposed to chasing the full amount, is that this has been proven or shown by the Chief Financial Officer, current, past and recent, that the long-term financial plan can be restored at the 3-year mark. So, at this point, let's get the money we need to get back on track and then have time to conserve ourselves and to reassess what the government will do at our plea that the funding models are wrong, what our ratepayers are willing to bear, how many more ratepayers we have in the system at the end of 3 years on the back of the good work from the planning department, the asset department, the amenity department, etc., and then move forward. We have that agility at that time. But if we lock it all in now as permanent, we have lost that agility to make fluid decisions come year 3, and remembering that those decisions, well, as Councillor Witt has said, falls into the next term of office. And we've said in this group, why are we hamstring? We are now hamstrung by decisions of the past. Well, this is a good decision to get funding in place and in train, but let's not hamstring the next council.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Hi. I guess I feel at this stage it would be, I'm unsure what the ramifications would be of this making it temporary. I would, I guess I would be asking if they could, I mean, in this process, we'll be coming back here again before we decide completely. We're just really at this stage just asking, aren't we, for submitting to IPART for this variation application, that we need a bit more discussion about what it would mean and whether the plans we're thinking in terms of growth and all that, what impact that might. I just would like to discuss it. I feel a bit uncomfortable about making this decision right at the last minute. And also I'm not quite sure how, for example, can we anyway change our rate? I mean, can we go down anyway? I mean, I don't know. I would not be certain about, if I supported this, what it would mean. So I'm just asking, I guess, if they could bring it back when we're discussing this again in the future, and we'd have time to discuss what this might mean in terms of the plans that have been made and the big picture that we've been discussing. That's all. I wouldn't be able to support it like right now.
Okay, Councillor Gallatley, you'd already spoken unless you have another point.
Can I just address, Councillor Packer address me on...
Doesn't get a chance to. Doesn't get a chance to.
He said.
No, doesn't get a chance to.
It's not offensive, I'm not sure.
I never for a moment think it would be, as long as it can be succinct. So bearing in mind that we are now, tweaking standing orders, but I'm doing that with good grace because this is an important...
Is your good-heartedness. And in addressing this, and this is through my way of thinking, and I understand, and all due respect to Councillor Packham with his vast experience in accounting, if I was going to be putting my money on something, I would much rather go with the experience of all of our staff with local government rules and regulations and what we're doing here than go with someone that has had 12 months experience in the local government area. And that's all due respect, because I really do think that's so. And along with Councillor O'Brien said, she's not comfortable with it either, because these things that get sprung on us like this, I don't think it does. Well, it certainly doesn't me doing any good to do it. So, as I said before, I'm backing our staff to give us the right information, because that staff and our leader of our staff was supplied by the people that put our rules in order to start performing better than what we have done in the last 20 odd years or whatever. So I think I'd rather go with the recommendation than Councillor Packers. But all due respect, I understand that.
Thank you. Councillor Witters?
Yeah, this is a good example of actually taking the time to be actively listening, listening to the comments. And I really want to thank Councillor Packham for his response to Councillor Robinson, because listening to that made me change my thinking on this a little bit. I am sort of leaning after Councillor Packham's response in supporting the word temporary, but I was wondering whether Councillor Packham, within his response, would be willing to make it not only say temporary, but give the timing of 3 years with a review in 3 years for the next council to say that. And that then allows the next council to say, yep, we want to continue as it would be if it was permanent. But if funding comes in through state or federal government to alleviate the pain onto the ratepayers, and the next council can say, hey, we don't need our ratepayers to pay as much, so we can drop the SRV from 58 down to 42, down to 36, or anything else like that. So having the word temporary with a temporary of this amount and with the word review to either continue at 58, or if there's capacity or the funding or things have been met by then looking at it. So it's just maybe a question if Councillor Packham likes that idea, because I'm swaying with you as it is.
So thank you for that question through me, Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Witters, for the example. I guess I felt that it was implied that it gave the opportunity for the next council to reconsider its the point of play at the time of 3 years, and we'll be making that decision of whether to convert that temporary SRV or request that temporary SRV to be made permanent and rolled in, as we have requested of this community on before with SRVs of 18%, which were expiring, and then it was put out to the community. Are we allowed to roll that in or not? So it was implied. I don't necessarily think it would be required to say with a review of the council, because I don't want to again make that decision on behalf of the next council that may be deliberating on this point. So the next council would understand its financial position in 3 years' time, and then be able to, to go through this process again.
Thank you. Councillor McMichael.
Just further to the timing of why we're doing it now and why we're voting now, IPART is due in February. The decision that IPART makes is due in February. I think there's a particular date. Happy to be So we need to make a decision now so that council staff can organise the papers and all that kind of stuff so that they've got enough time and things. As a community, we have been discussing it with everyone, I believe, over, I would hope, a reasonable length of time since May or June. So I don't think that extending it out another month would assist us. I think as councillors we need to make a decision. In terms of temporary, the money, the amount that we would get from a temporary SRV would not change in 3 years. It would just stop at, it wouldn't be permanent. I mean, I don't want to be facetious or anything, but I mean, it's temporary and the amount that we get wouldn't change. Isn't that right?
I'll do a summary of that and I'll try and answer that question.
I mean, we want, I don't want to be rude, it's the money we want and over the short term that we're concerned about so that we can do services, particularly over the short term, to bring more residents here.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In relation to what Councillor Packham and now Councillor Witters has also said about temporary versus permanent, I don't think that a region can be a stop-start region where we're talking about the repair of a lot of backlog here, and we're talking about trying to drive a region forward which has the same population that I left 30 years ago. It has not grown. How can we attempt to go into this from a temporary perspective? We only temporarily want to fix the problem and then allow it to go away. I think that Councillor O'Connor's given us some forecasts from the Reserve Bank Governor, who some people are calling for his head because he didn't get it right with the inflation predictions that we now face now, but he may not also have it right. But if he is right and the inflation rates do keep increasing over the next few years, then maybe Armidale Regional Council is the only council that's sitting in the right place for where inflation actually is. So I'm completely against this idea.
Thank you. Councillors, before we take this to a vote, we've bounced around. There's a lot of ideas here. We're talking about the amendment before, if this is won or lost, we'll determine whether we go back to the substantive motion. So really the debate is around temporary. What does that mean? It's important to note, though, that with the SRV, what council is seeking is to be able to generate an increased amount of revenue from rates. It gives us that opportunity. So to take us from our current around $20 million in rate revenue to around $30 million in rate revenue. That's what we are seeking to do. That is the cap. Now, at the moment, our cap is 20. If in year 3, and our cap has now grown to $30 million, we don't have to actually charge $30 million in rates. So the term temporary or the end result of temporary is up to the council of the day. By having a temporary and dropping it back to what it was, back to 20, we now have to go through this process again. So I think in terms of burdening future councils, it's really up to the future councils can make a decision. They might decide, look, we're flush. We don't need this. We're on top of all of our asset maintenance. We don't want to grow. We don't want to do all these things. Let's just charge $20 million in rates. So that really is a summary. We need to put these things in a nutshell. So let's put this to a vote. We have what is the motion on the floor. Let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? I declare that the amended motion lost. And we'll now go back to the substantial one. And councillors, if we need to do this to have a discussion about it, I think we really have discussed this ad nauseum. I'm going to limit it to 2 for and two speakers against. Does anyone wish to speak for this motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion as it's on the screen? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Anyone abstaining? No vote. Okay. Well, I declare it carried. Thank you. Now I just have to make sure that we've got our numbers or our votes according. Councillors, can I ask you to look at the screen to see that your vote has been recorded correctly? So Councillor Packham was against. Redwood is for. And
Robinson against.
Robinson is an abstain. She's there at F3. Councillors, can you just notify me if this is not correct?
No. I just don't think we're allowed to abstain, are we? If we do, we've got to leave the room.
No, 8-3.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. We'll have to put you down, Councillor Robinson, as an against, or you're not in the room. Thank you, Councillor. I declare that carried. Well done. I also should note, thank you all councillors for the views expressed. It is important that we do this. It is important that we all have the opportunity to express differing views. Again, that's why we've been elected. We've been elected to express our views. We've been elected to prosecute them as we see fit. All right, councillors, item 8.3, the Council Actions Report. So this report summarises the actions taken on resolutions of Council for the period January to October 2022. Council is being asked to note the report. The details are from page 37 of the agenda and 523 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for what's on the screen, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and seconder. Thank you, Councillor Witters. Anything to say, Councillor Redwood?
No, thank you.
Councillor Witters? Okay, councillors, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 8.4, the Integrated Planning and Reporting Delivery Plan and Operational Plan from July to September 2022. So the report provides an update on the progress of Council's operation plan for that period from July to September 2022. Details are page 41 of the agenda and 547 of the attachments, where Council is being asked to note the report. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor Redwood seconded. All those, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I'll declare that carried unanimously. Now, item 8.5, the consultation by IPART on the RatePed methodology. This is somewhat timely. Regional councils are significantly hampered by the rate peg, and that's only imposed in New South Wales. IPART has determined the rate peg, determines the rate peg and is undertaking a review of that methodology, as it's probably not fit for purpose. So the review involves seeking input from councils and a report to the New South Wales Government in May of 2023. The details around this are from page 38 of the agenda and 603 of the attachments. We have a recommendation on the screen there where council is being asked to note a number of reports, but also to proactively participate in that review. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. And a seconder, thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor O'Connor, do you wish to speak to that?
No, only that I really do urge as many councillors as can to participate in this. This is pretty historic, and it could have really big impacts for the future funding of the sector. So it's important.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to this? All right. Yes, Councillor Robinson.
Just a quick thought that maybe we could also talk to, anybody who's making a submission could also mention to IPART the injustice of the current system, as well as just the methodology.
Thank you. All right. All those in favour, let's put it to a vote. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.1 is the cash and investment report to the 31st of October 2022.
Sorry.
We have the details are on page 44 of the agenda, or from page 44 of the agenda, where council is being asked to note the report. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. And a seconder is Councillor McMichael. Councillor O'Connor, do you wish to say anything? No. Councillor McMichael? Okay. Let's put that to a vote. All those in favour of noting the report, thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is around identifying land for development opportunities. So Armidale Regional Council has identified a road reserve on Curtis Street that is a land development opportunity. The details around this are from page 50 of the agenda. So council is being asked to undertake a public process to close the road reserve, then prepare the lands survey and application to the Regional Crown Lands Office, and then post-closure, prepare a subdivision development application for residential lots. Do I have a mover for what's on the screen there? Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Seconder, thanks, Councillor Witters. Anything to say?
I think it's a great identification of a small piece of growth, but let's hope that there's many more of these kind of parcels are found and we can decide on them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Robinson.
Just to add that at our Monday meeting discussion, we also looked at the pathway that was beside that, and that's still going to stay there, which is, even though it's an informal pathway, any informal pathway and access is very important.
Terrific. Thanks. That's very important to note. Okay, councillors, shall we put this to a vote, please? All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.3, the first quarter budget review. So this report provides council with information on the revised budget position for the 2022-23 financial year. The details are from page 53 of the agenda and 661 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen there that outlines a number of things that the council is to note as well as resolve. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Galletley that one, so he's moving it, and Councillor Gadders is the seconder. Councillor Galletley, anything to add?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak to this? Councillor Packham.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Point of clarification, budget position versus current operating position or current operating result, and I'll defer my comments to operating result as opposed to budget position. I am concerned that we're only one quarter in from voting on a budget that had a certain deficit. In fact, we voted bravely for a deficit, and it seems like it's gone further despite some of the windfall gains under interest. Sometimes balancing the books is about living within your means. I think Councillor Gaddy's talked about going to the restaurant, and I said sometimes to afford new tyres you have to forgo Friday nights out. It's just a fact of life, and that's not managed decline in your life. It's just temporary rationalisation. There are points in the report, which is it's an excellent report, by the way, that talks that it's notable that economic risks associated with the financial position and cash reserves for the future, which is what we're dipping into quite extensively, is highly dependent on effective budget management and the continuation of maintaining services at existing levels to remain within the funding available. And the amendments to the budget are predominantly movements to realign the budget to match actual expenditure. Well, in my 30 years of accounting, I'm not quite sure just moving the budget numbers to match what you've actually spent is actually dealing with the budget. There are extraordinary circumstances. We've had extraordinary circumstances which may have required us to overextend on some budget line items. But equally, and I think I've said in other forums, that until we ring-fence road funding, until we ring-fence the funding of depreciation for asset renewal, we're not going to be living within a real result for the general fund, and the general fund will not be clear and transparent for us. If we actually look at what the reporting officer says, the surplus cash position from the waste business should be placed into reserve to provide full funding for landfill rehabilitation liabilities. They're not funded at the present moment. I think in the balance sheet to $8 million. And funding from the Road to Recovery grant is used in the capital program, again, ring fencing. The table below shows that if these items are removed from the revised budget result, a forecast deficit of $9 million is apparent. And I'm not quite sure that that's, we got asked not to move goalposts, and I just don't know whether the reserves can handle this sort of hit to the budget. And I'm not keen without other measures to support the review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the other important thing from the officer's recommendation is to note that we'll have an unrestricted cash forecast of 4.9 million. And I think that's one of the things that was really, really critical in our previous council, was that we didn't have quite anything like as much unrestricted cash as that. So at least it's an improvement on what we had before, and I'm quite comfortable with 4.9 million.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote on the recommendation, the review, noting the changes, and also resolving to amend the budget accordingly. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried, 10-1. All right, councillors, item 9.4 is the presentation of the audited financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2022. So council's financial reports for the year have been completed, audited and submitted within the required time frame. Council is being asked to note the report on the presentation of these financial statements with details from page 61 of the agenda and 694 of the attachments. Could I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Robinson, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor Robinson, do you wish to speak?
Only 2 points that I particularly noted, and one was the surplus for the previous financial year, and the other is the change in the condition of the assets defined to be satisfactory, which is way, way down in the middle or towards the end of the report, but it's a very, very important thing if you want to compare results this year with last year. So if you want to note anything, just note how the change in the definition of the condition of the assets has affected our audited financial statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Witters. Right. Anyone else? Let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of noting that? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we move to item 10.1, which is a fun one. the Stockpiled Mulch Reduction Initiative, a snappy name. So council is being asked to waive fees for the purchase of mulch, endorse restriction to 8 cubic metres per load and allow residents to collect as much free mulch at Guyra as they can. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Gadders. A seconder can be Councillor Robinson. So Councillor Gadders, what?
Mr Mayor, if I could, yes, I do believe this is a very good program, and I hope that the community takes the opportunity as we're looking like a good growing season ahead of us. But what I would like to suggest is a small amendment. So point D, I believe this was submitted earlier. It's just endorsing the provision of a maximum of 2 loads to community groups following the application to the General Manager to a maximum of 2 loads or 16 cubic metres per group. I believe we've had a relook at the abundance of mulch, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity and people aren't just backing the truck up and taking more than their share. So I'd like to suggest we put that in, please.
Okay, so that's now that is the motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. So Councillor Gadders, do you need to speak further to that, or are you?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
An excellent idea, and it's also really interesting that the difference between this council, where we're allowed to do this sort of thing, and the previous council, where we had motions to do something similar, and we were told that we could never do it unless we put the waiving the charges on a public exhibition first. So I'm glad that we've got rid of that bureaucracy. So excellent idea, and I certainly wouldn't want the mulch to set on fire. So let's just set our gardeners on fire instead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone wish to add to this? All right, let's...
I'll just say something,
yes, sure.
if you like.
Be delighted.
Just encourage, as there is some risk of spontaneous combustion, encourage our residents to take up the offer.
Thank you. All right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 11.1, it's the Homes North Management of Community Housing Assets. So the details of this are from page 69 of the agenda, where council is being asked to endorse the transfer of management of council community housing to Homes North from the current commercial real estate agreement, and endorse an increase in the income rent percentage from 20% to 25%. Do I have a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. And a seconder can be Councillor Galettley. Councillor O'Brien, do you wish to speak to this at all?
Just to congratulate Mr Schaefer on his excellent recommendation and great idea.
Good stuff. Councillor Galettley.
And it's fairly convenient, but a ratepayer in Guyra actually addressed me this morning about this and what was happening to those flats. So I said I'll keep it posted, but I'm just about to send her a message in a minute. Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see how we go. All right. Thank you. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak to this?
Just to add that councils are good at doing all kinds of things. We have lots of services, as we said before, for the when we're talking about the special rate variation. But one of the reasons we're taking this, we're giving the houses, so to speak, to Homes North is because they're specialist agency in housing, and we're not. And this will enable council to have someone else do other work, and Homes North will be able to do housing and do the work that they're specialised in.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously, and Councillor Galettley can now send his text message. Terrific. Multitasking. Councillors, item 12.1 is the key pillar working group minutes. So council is being asked to note the minutes from 4 of the key pillar working groups, being the growing region, the livable region, the connected region and the strong region. Details are from page 72 of the agenda and 805 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Now, I just throw this open. Maybe some of the chairs of those groups might want to say a word or two. So, anyone wish to speak?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So representing as the chair of the growing group, as you can see there from the minutes, we've had quite a few meetings since our last council session. We continue to focus on the airport precinct. We continue to focus on the renewable energy zone, also on tourism, as well as expanding existing business in the area. So those are our 4 key focus areas. We're at various stages. I probably can't allude to some of the areas that we're actually very close to resolving at the moment, but hopefully people would have seen that there is an expression of interest out for people to put their hand up to operate the airport cafe. We would like to get the airport cafe up and running as soon as we possibly can to take advantage of the people coming and going over the festive season. And then obviously ongoing from that. So that's a key one, as well as you would have noticed some of the new branding and tourism branding that is hitting the streets and the events list that's coming out. So we're working a top-down from a branding point of view and a bottom-up from an events point of view. So lots of things to keep us on our toes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Might I ask a question to one of the groups about the livable region, which is considering the bike rack sculpture in the mall? And I certainly have had residents who've been asking whether we can have a bike rack behind the stage as well. So maybe the livable region, well, they look at a sculpture as an excellent idea. And I've seen lots of very, very interesting sculptures and things like where you've got a bike rack that looks like a car, so it can fit into a car parking space. And just let's look and see what we can do with that. It's a good idea, and I commend them for it. And maybe also look at the cycleway as well, because that needs some maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Answer?
Yep.
Through the Mayor. Yes, we have a great creative team with combination of keeping place and pathways. Backtrack. I was thinking about bicycle paths then. And some really nice visions that we have for this, but also things that can be moved. So we might be able to move some down to the park area as well. So it's a kind of the vision is to have a creative cooperation between Backtrack and Keeping Place in terms of visions of Armidale, whether it's Indigenous or whether refugees and farmers. And so to have recycle and also around recycled material to create bike racks with artwork that can be movable. Yes, we've had a little bit of problem with getting some things off the start because they've got a new person who's helping us and cooperating with us. But yeah, the vision's good so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Packham is poised.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this now open to anything?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I actually have more of a point of order to bring to our attention. The Strong Key Pillar Working Group had a meeting held on November the 2nd. At that meeting, the records or the minutes show that the grids and stocks gates policy was discussed, saying that the GM advised the Strong Key Pillar Working Group that the gates and stock grid policy commence in the connected region, convened by Deputy Mayor Redwood and Councillor O'Connor, but determined that it was more appropriate for the Strong Key Pillar Working Group to deliberate. However, in June, Council voted unanimously at Item 129/22 that the grids and stock gates policy and public feedback be referred to the Connected Key Pillar Working Group to make comment and discuss proposed amendments, which ergo would require a resolution of Council to move it to another Key Pillar Working Group. You may recall also that at the June ordinary meeting, I expressed concerns over the basic premise under which the gates and grids policy was conceived and would be implemented. On the 28th of July, I attended the Connected Key Pillar Working Group as a guest to be engaged in and progress this topic with Councillors O'Connor and Redwood, including how public consultation would proceed, anticipating that a redraft be presented by Chief Officer Manners to the working group and furthering my engagement in that topic, having vested interest in the rural sector. The minute states that I have expressed desire to rescind the policy, which is misleading and a misrepresentation of what I have said on the matter, and as such I'll request that the intimation be retracted and the minutes redacted accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. So, there was a point of order. You want things corrected? We can do that. In terms of the movement, and we'd probably have to take some advice whether it needed to be a vote of council.
I don't believe it requires a motion before council. It is a point of order fact. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, councillors, if there are no further comments, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of just noting the minutes of the group? Thank you. I declare that carried. The next, unanimously, the next one up is the Traffic Advisory Committee, the minutes from 8 November 2022, where the details, well, council is being asked to note the minutes, the details from page 75 of the agenda and 891 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael, do you wish to give us a quick update?
Thanks, Mayor. We've had a busy couple of meetings. There are a number of events on in the region. Just a couple of things from the minutes. We are looking at the Kentucky Street intersection and the traffic flow. It's pretty busy up there. So Transport for New South Wales are looking at how the traffic could flow, right turns and various things, and they will get back to the Traffic Committee in the next month or so. And I hope that everyone is looking forward to Christmas in the Mall next Thursday. Halloween was a fabulous event in last month, and I hope that Christmas in the Mall is just as successful and that everyone can turn up. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Witters.
Yes, glad to see that the Traffic Committee is looking at that corner. I think it's of Danga in Kentucky, up there near the gymnastics centre. It comes to now my old bugbear used to be the Northfield lights, but my new bugbear is this issue that Armidale has, where the road's wide enough to fit two people in. So the impatient people that are 4 cars deep who want to turn left, then come up the left-hand side and then create a blockage for the person who's in front, who, under the roads and traffic rules, has the right of way to begin with. Now, the quickest way to do that is to put a block up there so people can't sneak up the left and block the first person, and then that quickly allows the traffic to flow properly. So I can name numerous corners within this region where people love to do it. I put on my Facebook a few weeks back about our wonderful new roundabout over there near the viaduct that used to have that issue, and people were still trying to do it with the roundabout there and roundabout signs still there. So either we put out an absolutely beautiful campaign that just because the road's wide enough doesn't make it a 2-lane street, it's still a 1-lane street, and you take your time and have a bit of patience, and if you're the fourth car back looking to turn left, well, you wait for the 3 cars in front of you to do what they're doing, or we find a way to stop that sort of thing happening, because that you go up there and watch that, that's what causes the bottleneck there, is people trying to squeeze their way in, and then it blocks the view of someone looking to go right, and then the left-hand person comes in and all those sorts of things. So it's good to see that. And just quickly, an event that's dear to my heart, I've been involved in it a fair bit, is the Dam Buster Run. Whether you're fit or looking to get fit, there's an event, a distance there for everyone. So I think they've got like a 5 and a 10 and a 30, and for you crazy people, even a 50, I think. So get involved, go out there, run up the mountain, run around, get muddy, have fun, and do that.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. All right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of noting the minutes? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 12.3 is the Sports Council, the minutes of the 3rd of November 2022. The mover is Councillor Gillespie. The seconder is Councillor Gadders. Councillor Gillespie.
There was a bit happening in the sports stuff. We had Paul Mayor was away, so he missed out on a Good Friday night. But Deputy Mayor came and we did the sports awards. Plenty of people turned up. We just realised that we really have got so many talented people. But I'm not telling anyone in this place that how many talented athletes and whatever we've got. It was a good night, and there was different things that we talked about that probably we could make it a little bit better, but that's nothing new, and no doubt they will come up in our next sports council meetings. But I think it was pretty well supported, and they did well, so that's good.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Okay, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of accepting the minutes, I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, we're now at the 13s. Are there any matters of an urgent nature? I haven't been alerted to any. Terrific. Let's go to item 14, question on notice. So councillors being asked to note a response to the questions on notice provided by Councillor Robinson in relation to water supply options and costs. Councillor Robinson, would you like to move that and speak to it?
Yes, please.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor O'Brien can be that one.
Thank you very much for the answers to the questions. I wasn't even expecting them for several weeks. And I also note that the answer to question 1 is different from what I expected, in the sense that it does seem to contradict 15.1 from the last meeting. But this is the latest version, so I'll accept this as the gospel truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Okay, council laws, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of noting the response? Thank you. I declare that that carried unanimously. That brings us to the end of the open session of the meeting, so thank you. Can I have a motion to move into closed session? And if resolved, thank you, Councillor Gillespie's moved that. Councillor Robinson can second that. All those in favour for moving into closed? Terrific. I declare that carried. So public, thank you for your attendance. Should you wish to return and come back, please feel free to wait around. We'll just Councillors, okay. Can we see if there's any public out there that are loitering? Thank you. I welcome, are we back on? I welcome councillors back into the open session and ask the General Manager to read out the resolutions of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 2 items in closed session. Item 15.1 to do with the extension of an engagement of GHD Proprietary Limited for the provision of engineering and technical services for the Kempsey Road project. Resolved by Council that the Council endorse the procurement strategy for further utilisation as and when required by Council's Kempsey Road project team of the Kempsey Shire Council's arrangement with GHD Proprietary Limited under RFT TQE 21/18 provision of project management and engineering services 2021 for the period of the contract to its expiry on 31 July 2024 or alternatively to the extended contract expiry date. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to authorise expenditure under the contract to an upper limit of $2,008,600, including GST that is available for the project as approved by the Administrating Agency Transport for New South Wales, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve variations to the upper limit funding for any additional works carried out by GHD under the contract. And item 15.2, Mr Mayor. Engagement of a contractor for a council project being the Kempsey Road project. Resolved by Council that they accept the tender submitted by Seymour White Constructions Proprietary Limited of $3,216,827.90, very precise, to deliver Kempsey Armidale Road Disaster Recovery Works Early Contractor Involvement Contract. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure for the Early Contractor Involvement Contractor to undertake a range of early works activities to an upper limit of $16,500,000 including GST. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure of a contingency against recommendation A to an upper limit of 25% on the Early Contractor Involvement Engagement value. And D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documents in relation to the contract based on the condition that suitable funding arrangements are in place with Transport for New South Wales. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. If there is no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:14 p.m.
Can we all congratulate you on your executive role on the Mayor's?
Thank you.